Hey everyone, this is C Crypto Daily Buzz. Today is April 9th, 2026, and we're looking at Morgan Stanley's ultra-low-fee Bitcoin ETF debut, how a 2-week US-Iran ceasefire is moving crypto and oil, and why even Memecoins like PEPE are now being pulled into the ETF race. This channel summarizes the most important crypto news for investors in Southeast Asia, including traders and OFWs in the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and across the region. Issue 1. Morgan Stanley joins the spot BTC ETF war with a 0.14% fee. Morgan Stanley has officially launched the Morgan Stanley Bitcoin Trust MSBT on NYSE Arca, becoming the first major U.S. bank to list its own spot Bitcoin ETF, with a management fee of just 0.14%, undercutting BlackRock's IBIT at 0.25% and Grayscale's Mini BTC at 0.15%. Reports note that MSBT traded around 1.6 million shares on its first day, with roughly $34 million in estimated net inflows. And Bloomberg ETF analysts are already calling it a top-tier launch in terms of first-day activity. For investors in Southeast Asia, this shows that traditional banks are no longer just referring clients to third-party funds. They're competing directly in the spot ETF arena with aggressive pricing. In my view, traders and long-term holders in the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia should see this as further normalization of BTC in the U.S. wealth management system. But still remember that a cheaper fee doesn't remove price risk. 66K or 40K BTC would still hit portfolios, regardless of whether the fee is 0.25% or 0.14%. Issue 2. 2-week Iran ceasefire sparks BTC and risk asset relief rally. President Trump has announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, contingent on the immediate safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, sending oil prices down more than 15% to below $100 and lifting global stock futures sharply higher. Crypto analysts say Bitcoin jumped roughly 4–5% on the news to test the $71,000 to $72,000 area, while Ethereum bounced more than 6%, as markets quickly priced in lower near-term energy risk and a pause in escalation. For traders in Southeast Asia, this looks like a classic relief rally where one headline temporarily flips sentiment, even though the underlying conflict and macro uncertainty haven't disappeared. My opinion is that investors in the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia should treat this ceasefire as a short-term volatility driver, build scenarios for both an extension and a breakdown of the truce, and avoid chasing green candles without a clear plan for what happens if negotiations fail. Issue 3. Canary Capital files for a PEPE spot ETF signaling ETF mania, reaching Memecoins. Asset manager Canary Capital has filed an S1 registration with the US SEC for the Canary PEPE ETF, a spot fund that would hold the Memecoin PEPE directly, aiming to launch once the registration is effective and an exchange submits a corresponding 19B4 listing proposal. The firm has a history of filing for multiple niche and altcoin ETFs, leading some commentators to question whether it is chasing publicity, but analysts also see the PEPE filing as part of a broader trend in which ETF competition is creeping from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana into the Memecoin segment. For Southeast Asia investors, including younger traders in the Philippines and Vietnam, this shows how ETF branding can move from blue-chip crypto toward much regular assets, even if approval odds for a PEPE spot ETF remain very low under current SEC standards. My view is that traders should treat Memecoin ETF headlines as sentiment signals rather than investment green lights. And remember that whether you buy PEPE on-chain or via an ETF, the underlying volatility and crash risk do not go away just because the wrapper looks more traditional. To summarize today's briefing and the key takeaways for Southeast Asian investors. First, Morgan Stanley's MSBT launches on NYSE Arca with a record low 0.14% fee and strong first-day flows. Second, a 2-week US-Iran ceasefire sends oil below $100 and BTC back toward the 71–72K zone in a relief rally. And third, Canary Capital's PEPE spot ETF filing shows ETF competition spilling over from BTC, ETH, and SOL into Memecoins. This video is for information and education only and is not financial advice. All investment decisions and risks are your own responsibility. If this video was helpful, please subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell. And if you want more chart analysis and trading insights, join our free Telegram channel. The link is in the description below. See you in the next one.